What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm going to keep kind of short but break down some melody sauce for you guys. Basically explain the 5 biggest mistakes that I noticed people doing with their melodies and some tips on how to improve your melodies overall. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe because I drop videos every day. And also make sure to go follow me on social media at inquires. Keep up with me, you know what I'm saying, tap in, but let's get it. Alright, so this is a melody that I have. I'll play it first. So the first mistake that I notice a lot of people doing is, like, let's say I add this layer, people layer sounds, but the thing is that the sounds are in the same frequency spectrum, so they clash. So this is what I'm talking about. So as you can see, like, my flute or whatever is really like clashing with my main melody because they're competing for the same frequency space. Keep both melodies playing at the same time. I'm actually gonna do this trick that I do a lot, which I apply low pass filter. So basically just any filter that you EQ out the highs. So then this is what that sounds like after. You still keep the harmonics of the low part, like, except it's more muffled, so then my flute has more room to stay on top of it. And with this kind of thing, you can really go creative with it. I mean, you can, like, low pass everything. Just when you're layering it, it'll make it way more interesting. So basically, first mistake is adding layers on top of each other that have frequencies in the same space, so they're kind of clashing together, competing for the same space. All right, so second mistake is the flute layer is way too complex. Like, so, like, the thing is, like, it doesn't ever stop, or, like, there's no breaks, which kind of makes it dull. So what I'm gonna do is actually take my cutting tool and slice it over here and probably over here. And I'm just gonna, like, remove some sections, and I'll show you guys why that makes it automatically way better. So I'm gonna remove like this one and actually make this like that, and then take out this one and just leave this, so like the second part can be a little longer. But this is what it sounds like after. As you can see, that sounds way better just because, like, there's a breathing space where kind of like the melody is resting, so you kind of anticipate the next part to come in, whereas if you have just like a melody line that keeps going forever, and, like, it gets boring, but not even boring, it's more like it gets annoying, like, in the way. So, like, a rapper can't even, like, rap on it because there's no space. So make sure to always, like, simplify your melodies in a way that, like, there's breaks in between. Like, these spaces are actually very important in making the melody really cool. So alright, so that's pretty much the second mistake, is, like, over complicating your melodic lines, not adding enough space. So the third thing that I hear a lot is pay attention to the end of over here when the flute line ends. As you can hear on my flute, I have a lot of, like, delay and, like, reverb effects. So it decays out. So, like, when if I want my flute line, let's say, to end over here, if I'm going to introduce, like, some other melody over here, it's not going to end because it keeps decaying out, which, like, in some cases that's okay. But, like, if you're actually making melodies to send out to someone, you don't want to do that because, like, they're going to take your melody and, like, chop it up over here. So then it's gonna be bleeding into the next section. So to stop your delays and, like, reverbs from bleeding into other sections where another instrument is gonna come in. So let's say if I bring in this choir over here. So as you can see, the next section is the choir, but my flute keeps bleeding into the choir section. So you basically go into the mixer channel of the instrument that you want to end the decay of, and you get fruity balance. And what I'm going to do is put the volume on 0, so it's going to basically mute everything. But then I'm going to go over here into my volume and automate it. So I'm automating now the channel volume of it. So what you basically do, now it's full volume, so it's muted. So if you want it to be muted, you just got to make it full volume. So if I want it to be playing, I'm just going to do it like this. And you can literally, you know what I'm saying, like, just like keep it like that. and as you can see, it just ends. Or I mean, you could always render this out to audio and cut out the decay time, but like, you know, I don't really like to render it out until I'm actually rendering out the whole melody, just because I want to be able to tweak with the effects. All right, so that's basically the third mistake that I see a lot of people doing is decay times that bleed into other sections, which kind of makes it sound weird. All right, so the next biggest mistake I see is when you're making a top melody on top of chords. You know, people make melodies that really don't go anywhere and like don't really have a call and response. And this is like a musical thing if you really want to learn about it, but it basically comes down to just making a melody that doesn't like repeat over and over. It kind of adjusts to the chords. So basically, I have these chords over here. All right, so then I added like a flute layer on top of that, and this is what that sounds like. So that's pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do is actually now copy this and show you guys what I mean. So if I copy this like to the next section. See how that's like almost unfulfilling, because like the melody like does that over here, but then it repeats it over here. So then you kind of don't know when it ends or when it starts. You know, you want to have like a distinction here that tells you that the loop is near the end. So when you hear this part again, it's like, oh, the loop is starting again. So for that, I'm actually going to remove all these extra notes at the end and kind of make it end on this C instead of just kind of doing all this. So this is what I mean by that. So then if you repeat this, so as you heard, the sustained note over here is really important because like it lets you know that the loop is ending, and then when you hear this section over here, it's like the loop is starting back up again. So all right, so that's pretty much the fourth mistake, is like not having a call and response in your melody. Like kind of the melody kind of like goes nowhere. It doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really like let you know when the loop is ending, when it's starting. Just make sure to like keep this in mind when you're making top melody lines. All right, so the fifth and final mistake that I see people doing is like having melodies that are not full in terms of like the frequency spectrums. So I have these chords, and I'll show you guys like the EQ of it. You know, so it really takes up a lot of the mid-range, like from 100 to 1000 hertz. But over here in the higher range, it's a little empty. But after I add this second higher layer, you guys will notice how much of a difference it actually makes. It sounds way better. So like the second layer is the synth, and it's like more in like the 1000 to like 5000 range over here. So if I take out the synth, it sounds really empty. But then when I add it back in, you know, it just fills out the space, and like your ears, if it's more comfortable to listen to with your ears, I feel like, because like it's more balanced out. You know, it's not just one like little cluster of sound, it's more like balanced out. So just like make sure your beat sounds full, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's pretty much my last tip for today's video. I think these tips will definitely help you guys make way better melodies. But yeah, if you guys found this video helpful, please give it a like and comment below what you thought of it, and I'll see you guys later.